When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And I'm here to tell you, number one, that most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it.
Work ethic eliminates fear, So if you put forth the work, then what are you fearing? You know what you're capable of doing, what you're not.
If you put your mind to doing whatever you want to do, good things can happen.
Because limits, like fears, are often just an illusion.
You're listening to the Plunkett Fitness Project. Here's your host, Jamie Plunkett.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for checking in episode 2. Glad we didn't scare you off with the first one. Today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind for quite a while, but first I want to tell a funny story that happened this week. Generally, when you get a text from somebody when it's meant for somebody else, it's usually not the best.
Yeah.
But
have you ever screen capped something and meant to send it to somebody else and send it to the person that you screen capped it of?
I don't think so. I'm pretty careful about that, but I don't think I have.
It happened to me one time. Not great. It did not go well. So when you showed me this text earlier, I was like, we got to talk about that, because it's awesome when it happens and it comes to you and it's complimentary. I mean, you got a trifecta there of goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a text from one of my clients' moms. I've got a client that's in high school, so I don't have adults' moms sending me texts. But one of my clients is a high school athlete. The mom sent me a text the other day about training one of his friends, and then she followed that up with a text that was meant for the friend's mom, and it was just kind of laughing about how her son originally made fun of her when she came home real sore from her first workout because she didn't know how to squat, and then lo and behold, he comes in and he doesn't know how to squat either. And then it was just followed with compliments of how much he's learning here and how much better he's getting on the field as well.
Yeah, I just, there's so many things that I love about that story. I mean, it's always nice because you typically don't know what people say about you when you're not around, and you shouldn't, when something like that slips out, especially when it's something that you care about as much as you do, which is with kids, getting them on the right track, getting them when they're young before they develop truly bad habits, and it's amazing that in 2018, this kid's a high school athlete in a good program, and this isn't his first time around in a gym, I'm assuming,
No, I mean, most of them that come to me, they're following a program at their school. And there's better things they could be doing. Generally, I don't think the schools invest enough money into the training programs and the coaches for it, so I'm not on here trying to trash the coaches by any means. Matter of fact, my dad was a high school football coach for 30 years, so
sure.
I kind of understand that aspect of it. But, I'm a very competitive person, and I've told multiple people this before who are around high school football programs. If I had any part in it, one of the main things I would do is find the best education for the athletes and learn them and teach them how to train properly. And I think it would make a 30 to 50% difference on the field in their performance and the team's performance overall. It would be night and day difference.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, and again, I was in high school in the 90s, and I played high school football, and we talked about this earlier, but it's amazing the amount of just the abundance of information and the ease of information now versus when I was in school, and we had the program I went to was, we were always a state contender. It was a good school. We had a good program, but our training, I mean, you just threw as much weight on the bar as you could. And we were lucky that we didn't truly injure ourselves. There were a few guys that took it upon themselves to really get serious about it. And it showed, those are the guys that went to college to play ball. And the rest of us were, we were good. We were young, and we worked hard, but we just had no direction, at all.
Yeah. What I will say is there's a ton of information out there, really, in anything you want to learn about. But I think, as you would know, you have to have passion about whatever it is. So really that's what I see lacking a lot of times is there's somebody who's, generally the coaches are very passionate about football or whatever sport they're coaching.
Sure.
But they're not necessarily passionate about training. So There's a ton of information out there, but that'd be like me learning about piano. I'm not passionate about it, so it's not going to be something I really absorb. So, but I mean, there are top 25 football programs in NCAA that I know of that don't have good strength and conditioning coaches. So it doesn't surprise me at all that high school coaches or high school programs aren't getting the most out of their training programs.
Sure. Yeah, it's incredible, especially it seems like, I mean, I don't know if it's just because I'm older or whatever, but I'm like, these kids just seem like they're, I mean, look at the NFL, look how fast these young guys are and how fast everything moves and how much more developed these guys are, in their early 20s right out of college as when we were kids. I mean, you looked at a lot of those NFL players and they were big guys, but they didn't look like just behemoths. Like now it's just, I mean, these guys are not only are they massive, but they're lightning quick, and a lot of that, again, it's all due to those guys have got the best of the best when it comes to training and nutrition, obviously. But just getting to that level, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'd even say there's lack of knowledge on the professional level too.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot that can be done education-wise from the bottom up.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that when, I think winning's the ultimate goal. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to me like if that was your thing, if it was, I mean, I feel like if I was playing high school football now and I had access to the information that's out there now, and again, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in great physical condition now, so maybe I wouldn't. But I would like to think that if I was going to pursue that, if I was going to play football in high school now, I would take the time because it's so easy. You can literally, I mean, the stuff that I love now, it's one of my favorite things to do is, or one of my favorite things about the time we're in right now is just the ability to continue to learn and develop in whatever field you're passionate about. Like you said, if you're playing high school baseball, high school football, golf even, I mean, it really doesn't matter. If you're playing a sport, training and nutrition, they're the two building blocks, and having that information out there is really, it's a luxury for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to whatever it is you want to do, finding somebody who has been successful in whatever venture it is you're trying to get better at and learning from that person. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, and that's I don't know, something I've done over the years is like if I want to learn how to get better at whatever it may be, I'm going to find somebody who's really good at it and see if there's a way I can learn from that individual.
Yeah, that's the old success leaves clues.
Yeah.
I don't know who said that first or where it came from, but it's 100% true, and it's so nice now, again, because you can find somebody, and when you find them, typically you can really stalk the hell out of them. You can find them, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or whatever. You can go back and say, well, where did they start? How did they start? And then you can almost, reverse engineer their path, and you can kind of cherry pick the things that you, that you want and that pertain to you specifically in your set of goals and apply them. I mean, it's an amazing time, and it's really fun because, back, like I said, back in the day, it wasn't that long ago, 10, 15 years ago, you had to find a mentor. You had to find the person. It wasn't just finding the person online, at whenever you've got some time to kill and jumping on your phone. It was, you actually had to find a guy in your neighborhood who was, a strength and conditioning expert or a guitar player or whatever your passion was, So
yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, are you ready to talk about what we're?
Yeah, let's get into. So, Jamie and I were talking earlier about, what are we going to talk about today? And he asked me, is this too aggressive? And I said, I don't think so. I think it's good that you're passionate about it. So I'm going to go ahead and let you. I'm Jamie's spotter here on this podcast. And if he gets out of line, I'll spot him. But I think he's got some really valid points, and I think you've got some really. I should say you've got some really valid points because you're sitting right here. I shouldn't talk about you in the third person, but yeah, I say let her rip.
All right. Well, the thing I was mentioning earlier that, and I've mentioned some of my other stuff online before, is how it's not our job as fitness professionals to entertain people. I say all the time, and I mean I'm half joking, but I'm serious. If you want to be entertained, go out to eat, which I don't think that should be entertainment either, but that's another subject. I'll touch on that in a minute. But if you want to be entertained, go to the movies, go out to eat, go out with your friends, go out to the bar, whatever it may be that you do for entertainment. I think too many people look at fitness and nutrition as entertainment, and that's no different than looking at your kid's education or your job as entertainment. So hopefully you do get entertainment from those things, but you should be doing those things just as you do anything in your life that you want to be successful at, with a purpose. So your purpose for your job is to make a living, pay your bills, and hopefully advance in life. I think a huge problem in this country is we look at food as entertainment.
Yeah.
And, and I just try to think about things real basic, and I try to dumb things down to their most basic sense. So why do we eat? We eat to live. And I mean, I don't want to be boring. I don't want to sound too hard, but if somebody comes to me with a goal, I'm going to give you the black and white version of how to get to that goal.
Right.
So the first thing I think people have to do is remove their emotions from their day-to-day decisions that are taking them farther away from their goals. And, we specialize mainly in fat loss, and that is 99% nutrition.
Yeah.
And I don't sell nutrition.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's a lot of it, and I'm, let me know if I'm wrong here, but it's just, man, it's those habits and the rituals, and all of a sudden, you're doing the wrong thing so often that you don't even know it's wrong anymore. It's just what you do.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. And I mean, I don't want to sound like a dick here, but the thing is I think at the end of the day, we generally know the things we're doing that aren't the best for us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you have a habit of showing up 5 minutes late to work, the boss probably doesn't like that.
Right.
And I mean, if you had to sit down and seriously write down what your goal is, write it all on a piece of paper, write down what your goal is, no matter what it is. It comes to nutrition, comes to weight training, comes to your job, whatever. So you want to advance in your job. Okay, and then in another column you write down what are the things that are going to get me closer to that goal.
Sure.
And then another column, write down what are the things that I'm doing currently that are taking me farther away from that goal. So being 5 minutes late or eating that cookie are the things that are probably not helping you get to that goal. So you need to address why you're doing those things.
Yes.
And I mean, that's kind of a hard approach, and that's how I am. And I mean, it's not that I'm not compassionate or I don't have empathy for people, but I mean, for me, every day when I train a client, and I've been this way since I was younger, like I think I can get fired every single day a client comes in and sees me, and it's my job to get them to their goals. It's not really my job to entertain them and tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like a lot of this. You kind of introduced this topic to me, and through an Instagram post that we saw, I don't know, a few weeks back, and you sent it my way, and you're like, this right here, this is exactly what I'm talking about, because it seems like, part of that is the culture that we're in right now. I feel like there's a lot of people that are, working out, whether it be going to the gym or doing whatever it is. It's almost like they're just checking a box.
Yep.
And I feel like, in the culture that we're at right now, where we are, a lot of people are doing it not as entertainment. They're not saying it's entertainment, but they're posting stuff about it the same way they would as if they were at a concert.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's really strange, because I think that there's I'm a big believer in social media, and I think it's there's a lot of benefits that come along with it, but I also think that it also gives way to a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah, and I will say all the things I just said about nutrition and exercise, those harsh words are not for the general public. They are for the educators, the people that are in my industry that aren't setting the record straight. And from the entertainment standpoint, what I always tell my trainers when I'm coaching my trainers themselves is if a client comes in and you're training them, or you're training a student like I was talking about earlier, and their parent walks in and they ask you why you're doing something, you better have a damn good answer. Because if you can't answer the question, then that's horrible,
Right.
And I mean, eventually that person can figure it out that you're doing it to fill time or to entertain.
Sure.
And the job is not to fill time or entertain. The job is to get the person in front of you better.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it just seems like there's a lot of, I don't know if it's fad type stuff, and I don't know.
Well, let me jump in there. I thought about something when you said that a minute ago.
Yeah.
I believe that there's so much misinformation out there, and people have been unsuccessful so many times that a lot of people have given up on reaching their goals, and so now they're just looking for they just want entertainment, and they're not looking for what's really going to get them to their ultimate goals.
Right.
That's something I've recently thought about in the last year or so. Is I feel like a lot of people have just I don't know the correct word, but basically taken a step back from their goals and just settled is the word I'm looking for.
Sure.
For physical activity.
Yeah.
Versus looking the way they want to look and fitting into the clothes they want to fit and being happy.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy when you're not in the industry. And I think this is something that's kind of universal. You look to people that are in the industry and I always, because when I work with my clients, I have their best interests at heart. And I always hope that the person that I'm working with, if it's somebody, whether it be my mechanic or if I come to a fitness expert, I'm hoping that what they've got in mind is my best interest versus their meeting or growing their bottom line. And I feel like that's something, we had talked about a little bit earlier too, that it's universal. And when you start mixing business with anything, there are people out there that they'll put their own well-being, they'll put their own financial goals in front of the whole reason that you started doing it. Whether it be, you got into personal training because you really wanted to help people, but now you've got a mortgage, or you're working for a gym and they've got a number, you've got to hit, you've got to sell X amount of memberships, or you've got to do this, that, and the other thing. And it turns into a numbers game. And that really, it's such a crazy thing because, like I said, it's universal, it's industry wide. I worked for a company that put their sales staff in the position of having to choose between making more money for themselves or doing what was best for the client. And that was one of the catalysts that got me to make a move out of there. But I feel like that happens a lot, and it's almost more personal when it's a trainer, because it's your actual health. It's not your car. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like it's bad enough having a mechanic take you to the cleaners, but when you've got somebody that's actually kind of leading you along, taking your money, taking your time, and kind of BSing you, because you don't know any better. It's not your job to know better as a lay person, as somebody who's not in the industry. And I think that's kind of what, you had talked about before. It's like, look at these classes. These professionals should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I will say another thing on that. I think a lot of them don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whatever profession you choose, you should educate yourself to know better. So I don't believe most people are evil.
Sure.
I believe in the good of most people, but I believe they're being miseducated, misguided as well.
Sure.
So, and I mean, ultimately, to me, getting kind of on another subject, but these people that are concerned about hitting sales more than they are taking care of the person in front of them, that's usually because they're overextended in their personal life financially.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's kind of a whole nother subject, but it's, finding somebody who's responsible and somebody who's happy without materialistic things, I think,
Sure.
And I mean, that's, to me, that's the same exact thing as really what our job is to teach people how to be happy in their lives and learn how to eat properly. Because, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Why we eat bad is usually we're overextended and we're not taking care of ourselves.
Right.
We're not getting proper sleep. We're chasing our tail. We're working too much. And we're usually doing those things because, we're doing too much and we're out of balance in some other
Sure.
aspect of our life.
Sure.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but
Yeah, I mean, no, I totally agree, and it does make sense, and it seems like, it's so easy when you let a lack of discipline sneak into your life. It's kind of like along the premise of how you do one thing is how you do everything.
absolutely.
And so it lets, when you start letting one thing go, it becomes easier to let the second thing go and the third thing go and the fourth thing go. And, it's bigger than fitness. It's bigger than training, but you can apply it to kind of to multiple facets of your life. And that's why when you look at, when you hear things like, oh, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, that's a direct result of, typically, I mean, obviously there's bad things happen to people all the time, but a lot of it has to do with people taking responsibility and not lying to themselves.
Yep.
It starts out with that, being honest with yourself. Yeah, I'm overweight. Why? Well, because I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And then you've got to do the hard work, and you've got to, maintain this self-discipline, which is, it's hard for everybody at every level. And that's one of the things that I think you guys touch on a lot, you and your staff here, is that most of you guys have at one point or another struggled with physical fitness yourself. And so it's you guys have got an abundance of empathy for your clients because you've all been there, which is why you're doing this now, because you know how important it was to yourself, and you know that it does extend beyond just fitting in the clothes you want to fit in and looking the way you want to look. It works its way into every facet of your life.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about being comfortable and happy. And the reason why it pisses me off when I see this stuff is I feel like I was lied to for 10 years trying to lose weight, And
Sure.
And when you see those classes on social media, maybe 45 of those 50 people, they're perfectly fine with what they're getting.
Yeah.
But maybe 5 of those people really want to get results,
Sure.
and they're not being told the right message. So you're wasting their time essentially, And I don't know. That's why that stuff's so frustrating to me. And then the more bad experiences somebody has in an industry, and maybe it's all industries, the harder it is for the person that's trying to do the right thing to get that person to buy in.
You're 100% right, and it is definitely applicable to every industry that I've been part of. Whereas if you've got somebody that's, I mentioned earlier, we talked about like general contractors get a bad rap. They've got a bad reputation of this, that, and the other thing. So there's no doubt there's a lot of great general contractors out there. There's a lot of great lawyers out there. There's a lot of great every industry, and I'm the same way. I believe that most people are good, and most of us want the same thing, which is to to live a happy life and this, that, and the other thing. But it's such a when somebody is has a sour experience, that for the next person that deals with that person, whether it be a fitness client who didn't get results, I've heard all this before. Because what you're saying initially sounds so similar. It's the minute details and the small things that separate what you guys are doing here and what a lot of people are doing that are teaching people the correct ways to actually, progress when it comes to fitness and nutrition. It's you guys are having to convince people that you're not a liar. So that's taken away from the time that you actually could be teaching them the steps they need to take in order to get to the goals they want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the first thing I always talk about when somebody walks in the front door. Is the first thing you got to do is convince them that you have their best interest in mind and you can help them get their results. The big one that affects us is there are other fitness professionals that tell women they shouldn't lift anything over 8 pounds or whatever small, stupid number they want to tie to it.
Right.
You can lift as much weight as you want. If you're not eating in a caloric surplus, you will not put on muscle.
Yeah.
And they will tell women in particular that you're going to get bulky if you lift weights, which couldn't be further from the truth because women do not have the hormones to put on muscle. And then you're going to have females say, well, no, I've got different genetics. I get bulky when I lift weights. Well, tell me how your diet was. I'll guarantee you their diet was not good.
Yeah.
They're eating, too many of the wrong foods that the bulk that they're putting on is fat.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my opinion, they are preying on, I don't know if you want to call the preying on them believing that misinformation or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. But in my opinion, that right there is one of the most disempowering things you can do to a woman, because as women get older, they lose muscle tissue at a much faster rate than men. We all are going to lose muscle tissue as we get older. There's no way to prevent it. You can prevent a lot of it with weight training, but you are doing a huge disservice, really to anybody, but especially females, when you discourage them from lifting weights. And, if they decide by the time they're 60 or 70 that's when they're going to start lifting weights and they didn't before then because they were discouraged because of the message in the media, that's really set them back.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's a huge, that's a huge mountain to move for somebody that, when somebody comes in with a predisposed idea like, well, I shouldn't be lifting more weights than this. It's the same thing as somebody being in a bad relationship. All men are terrible. A woman that dates a guy that's a piece of garbage. It's the same thing. Well, now the next guy she meets, before they can even start on their relationship, he's got to help her get over the last one. You know what I mean? It's the exact same thing when you're talking about this. So if you've got a fitness professional, in quotes, feeding somebody a line of something that's not true, then when they do come in here, you've got to spend, I don't know what the exact amount of time is. I don't know if it's twice the time, but you've got to take their time and your time to convince them of, why what you're teaching and why what you're doing is truly in their best interest and is truly going to get them to the goals that they're looking for.
Well, that's true. Hopefully, in the next 10, 20 years, we don't have to deal with that shit anymore and those people are out of the industry. Yeah. That's one of our goals with our business is to eliminate all the lies that are being told to the general public when it comes to this stuff. It comes down to the basics. You need to get enough sleep. You need to eat properly, and you need to be active. And people have limited time. They maybe have 3 hours a week or whatever. They may not be as passionate about it and enjoy it as much as I do or some of my trainers or trainers elsewhere. And the best use of that time is going to be spent doing strength training, some sort of resistance training that's going to build their body up versus break it down, which is what all that cardio does and all that caloric restriction does, is it breaks down the body. A lot of times people don't take a step back and look at their trainers and look at the full picture. I can't do this today because I run a business and I keep a very busy schedule, but I've been in this boat before, and a lot of trainers are in this boat where they have 8-10 hours a week to work out.
Sure.
So they've got more leeway in their nutrition. They can spend more time doing cardio and all these things. And generally, trainers are fairly young. They're in their 20s, so it's not going to be as detrimental as somebody who's in their 50s.
Sure.
But the thing is you have to look at your situation and approach it with the best possible plan, for the long term. I tell clients all the time, if I tell you to do something today that you can't do when you're 80, you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. That's good advice.
All right, well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening, and remember, it's really simple. You got to eat right, get plenty of sleep, and if you're limited on time, it should be spent lifting weights. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Plunkett Fitness Project. Please share with your friends, subscribe, rate, and review. For more info, visit our website, plunkettfitness.com.